And we are live. This is Travis Witherspoon from Carter Cow Trading, Trade with Travis, Carter Cow Capital in general. Hope everybody's doing very well on this Tuesday morning. As we go through and be able to take a look at what's going on with the charts. Today, Tuesday, Wednesday. Before I move on, today's Tuesday. Hopefully everybody's doing very well on this Tuesday morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. Let's see what's going on. And then after that, let's see what's going on for some overall trading opportunity. If you end up looking at my story, quite frankly, you've seen that, quite frankly, we're already in the money right now. And what we want to do is try to see if we can be able to make some more, obviously. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education. And from that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Understand that Forex involves risk. It involves risk of being able to make money, also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you'll end up making money today. So with that being said, hopefully everybody's doing very well. I'm getting ready to do one thing real quick, and I'm going to tell you why I'm getting ready to do it. Just give me a second as we go through and be able to take a look at this chart. I'm going to start off with the NASDAQ 100. I know typically I always go through the big three and everything else like that. I always go through introductions, but the market has kind of been moving a little bit faster than what I expected. End up catching this market right around, I want to say about 4 o'clock this morning at 11,920. Since then, the market ended up having a pop up. It got all the way up to basically 11,260, and then after that, dropped right back down. So we're pretty much in a position to where we have made funds. We locked in funds. We tried to see if we can keep the stop loss below 11,200. 12,200, and then after that, the market basically ended up falling from there. Now, what we're looking at currently right now is that we can see that the market is basically in a 5-minute retracement zone at this particular point. This market keeps on falling. It's going to end up reacting with this. It's going to end up reacting with this 50-day moving average. I want to see if the market is going to end up tapping that and being able to bounce right back off. If that does happen, then after that, we have a quick little scalping trade that we can be able to take. I don't think that this market is going to end up moving up too much today. If you look at what ended up happening previously, the market actually ended up moving up all the way up to, I want to say it ended up going all the way up to from 11,700 to 12,200, which is the daily day extension already. So the market has made a movement. Quite frankly, what I'm trying to do is trying to catch it before this market actually ends up giving a counter trend line break to the upside and then be able to go from there. Currently, the market is at 11,199. Anything below 12,000, I think, is a good number to be able to get into. Quite frankly, it went from 172 back to 200, so I missed out on that little portion of it. But anything below this number right now, I think will end up being a solid trade to be able to get into as long as it breaks the trend line and goes to the upside and going from there. So I'm actually locked in at 12,000. I think I got 12,205. Stop loss that I'm going to end up placing on this one will end up being right around the swing low of this overall position. And we'll see if this market actually ends up breaking this counter trend line to the upside. If it does happen, then quite frankly, we'll be in the money and we'll be good. I want to lock in this position as quick as possible. So if it gets to 12,025 or somewhere around there, I go ahead and move the break even, then we'll go ahead and move on. But that is the start of the day. The day has been like that since the beginning, since right around 2 o'clock this morning. If this market continues to fall from this overall position, I think it can go all the way down to 12,154 before moving back down to the downside. But I was kind of surprised that it actually ended up moving from 12,175 that quick. I thought it was going to go a little bit lower. But once again, if it can be able to push up and get back up to this high of this overall move, then after that, I'm going to go ahead and lock in profit on the first move and just let it play out and then go from there. Earlier this morning, actually ended up making about $500 off of the first move. The market basically ended up hitting and then rejecting off of this overall spot. We can see right now this market has rejected again. So want to see how this kind of plays out. We're basically in a zone where this could break out of this trend line and keep on moving, or it could move to the downside. I'm going to make sure I place in my stop loss because it's moving so quick. And then after that, we can start talking. So let me modify my order and place in my stop loss. And then after that, we'll talk about take profit and everything else like that. But the most important thing is to be able to move the stop loss to make sure that if something goes wrong, I don't necessarily lose. There we go. We have a huge pop up to 23. Then after that, start to retrace back down. Remember, we're looking at a 5-minute chart right now. So I'm putting my stop loss at 12,200. This market basically ended up bouncing off of that overall area. So I have it locked in at 12,200 for the market basically being at a stop loss. I end up getting in at 12,000. I end up getting in at 12,205. The market is at 12,230 right now. I'm going to go ahead and move my stop loss to break even. And then after that, once again, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to modify it and put it at break even. I actually put it at 12,206. Now we have a free trade. Now we can talk. All right. So at least I know I'm not going to lose anything while we're actually going through this. So hey, how you doing? I hope everything's going well. If you like what we end up doing, obviously you can be able to hop in with us in our bootcamp classes and our live stream classes and everything else like that. Currently, the market's at 12,225. If the market pushes down and it ends up going back to my original number, then guess what? No harm, no foul. If it keeps on pushing up, then that's a great move. And then after that, we can be able to talk. But let's go ahead and get started from the overall charts and everything else like that. The market is basically in a buy zone. If it keeps on moving up toward this level, obviously we end up having a very good day for this overall move. I think that the market can be able to go up to 12,400, which is basically that swing high. I don't think it might get there today, but I do think it's going to end up having a move. So we have to be able to pay attention to that. So, all right, let's go ahead and there goes the alert right there. Across the uptrend line. We should see, we might end up seeing some extension from that movement. If we do, then that's great. But once again, already locked in at break even, and we'll see how the market kind of extends from there. So earlier today, what we end up having was that this market basically, we have a trader stay that's actually happening right now as we look at it. We see that this market, for the pound, unemployment rate actually was down, but the climate count change was actually up when it came down to that. So that's actually very decent news when it came down to the pound. But we look at what happened with the index of consumer prices with the Eurozone in Germany. That information was actually negative. The economic sentiment survey for the Eurozone and Germany was actually down when it came down to October. So we have to keep that in mind. Essentially, what that's basically saying is that anything below 50 means that the market is basically getting into a recession. Anything above 50, that means that the market is basically steadily moving back. So currently right now it's steadily moving as we speak on this overall move. So it's actually okay when it comes down to that. So we have to keep that in mind. We have consumer price index that's going to end up happening a little bit later on with the US dollar. That's going to happen right around 7:30 this morning. So we want to make sure that we keep our eyes out on that and be able to understand what's actually going on with that. And then after that, going into tomorrow, we're going to end up having another day where the Eurozone and Australian dollar are going to end up being affected. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, taking a look at what's happening with the big three. We go to the US dollar index. Let's see. We go to the US dollar index. One thing that I want to pay attention to right now is that, remember, this market is considered to be at a point to where we're trying to see if this market is going to end up breaking bullish, right? Currently, we haven't had that movement as of yet. We can see that on the daily, the market ended up breaking up bullish before 2 weeks ago. That's where we end up making all our money in September. And then after that, the market has subsequently rejected and started to retest this overall area. If it breaks below 11,973, then that means that, quite frankly, the market is going to end up being bearish. If you look at the weekly is basically telling you that the market is getting close to being bearish. So we have to keep that in mind when it comes down to this overall movement and being able to understand that, quite frankly, that could be a time where I'm getting ready to move my stop loss a little bit tighter. Okay, so I'm definitely in a profit now. And we'll put in take profit and everything else a little bit later on, but I know that I'm locked in profit. We can see that this market, quite frankly, has not broken its trend line towards the upside, and until it breaks the trend line towards the upside, the market is still considered to be short-term bullish, but long-term bearish. So what are we looking for now? We're looking for the market to be able to break above this trend line. The market is in the buy zone or leaving from the buy zone. So we should see that this market could push up, but it's not guaranteed that it will. So we have to understand that that may end up being a case of the market tried, it failed, and then after that, it just rejected. So that is one of the things that we have to be able to pay attention to when it comes down to this overall move. So the US dollar right now, I consider to be bearish, and I wouldn't look for any opportunities as of yet. We take a look at what's happening with oil. Oil has gotten into a consolidated pattern as if kind of like what happened when it came into this ascending triangle, when it started moving very slowly, then having that quick drop. From that quick drop, it actually ended up going to another consolidated price. Now remember, very simple. When you're trying to trade consolidated trades, you're trying to buy at support, you're trying to sell at resistance. That's it. And if you don't do that, then quite frankly, there's no trade at all. We caught this market right when this market ended up getting right around $40 a barrel. And that's not a great price to be able to get in because the resistance is right around $41 a barrel. So I'm staying out of this market. I want to see how this market kind of reacts. We know it's in the sell zone, so we should see that this market could have a slight little drop. But once again, consolidation is consolidation. There's only two rules in playing that. So nothing else to be able to do on this particular move as of yet. Okay, so out of that market. We take a look at gold. Gold was one of those pairs that I was very much interested in being able to get in at this particular point. I am paying attention to how this market is basically moving off of this counter trend line. We can see that the market is basically leaving from the sell zone. That really doesn't matter to me right now because kind of like with the NASDAQ 100, the market is basically moving at a position to where we have a long-term bullish move and the US dollar is starting to get a little bit more weaker. So if we keep on paying attention to how this thing is actually reacting, there could be a chance that this market could break out even before getting into the buy zone. So what I'm looking for right now is a counter trend line break to the top side. If we get that, then after that we have a trade to be able to take. If not, then we have to be able to pay attention to it. But we can see that it started to already bounce off of this overall trend line already based off of the daily. So we focus in on the 2 hour and see if there's a counter trend line break toward the top side. Then after that, we have a trade to be able to take. And that's the movement right there. We have a breakout. We're looking for a retest. We're basically at the 2 hour position right now. We could look for buying opportunities on this actual pair. Let's see. I'm going to let this one play out. Because I think there's a better chance of this market actually falling before actually going back up. So I am going to let this one kind of play out and kind of see what happens with this overall market. But once again, I am interested in being able to buy it. I would rather get it at a lower price than what it is, but I don't think that we may end up getting that. We go to the D extension on the daily. The D extension for the daily is expected to be 1965 for its overall move. Let me show you how I got that. We look at this fib low. We go to this ABCD swing up here. We can see that this market goes from A to B to C to D. We have a swing up there, and it could go up to that point at this particular point in time. Okay, so I like the movement. I don't like what a stochastic is. That makes me kind of hesitant in being able to trade it. But overall, I do think that it's a very good position to be able to pay attention to. Okay. Moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about the NASDAQ 100. And I'm going to talk about the trades that I've taken this morning. And then after that, I'm going to talk about where the market actually is. We end up going from there. So yesterday, looking at the trades, quite frankly, the NASDAQ 100 was giving away money yesterday. And what I mean by giving away money, I basically mean that if we look at what an actual low was, we see that this market broke the volume profile and broke the actual B of this overall move off the daily. From there, we end up having 2 very strong days of overall push to the upside, and this market ended up basically hitting a daily D extension. Now, the daily D extension was at 12,200. Excuse me. Currently, this is where we're at right now in this overall market. But if we look at the weekly is still considered to be bullish. And with the weekly still considered to be bullish, then we're attacking basically the overall high of this move. The high of this move is at 12,400. Now the question would be, will this market forego basically hitting this overall daily D extension and keep on moving towards the upside? That's something that we have to be able to pay attention to. I think that's a very it could make a case of being able to do it. Typically, if we're looking at Forex trades in general, I will always stress to the side of being very cautious when it comes down to being able to make a move like this. And this is the exact reason why I try to get my stop loss very tight and be able to get it to break even very quickly, because quite frankly, right now, we're at the area of diminishing returns. If we would have traded this yesterday, then obviously we would have had a little bit more movement towards the upside. And if you did trade it yesterday, then obviously you got about 400 pips towards the upside, and you're not thinking about what you can be able to make today. You're just saying, okay, well, I have my money in the bag, so I can be able to do whatever I want to based off of this previous move, right? So that's something to be able to pay attention to. Now, because we are locked into this overall trade, I am going to end up saying, okay, well, if this market keeps on rising up, then I'm going to end up putting my stop loss put my take profit at the overall B high. The B high at this particular point is at 12,446. I'm okay with saying 12,400 for the overall position of being able to go to. From here today, that will be about another 200 pips movement towards the upside. Now, the question is that going to happen? We can make an argument saying that it could happen. We can make an argument saying that it could not happen. It probably, typically, if we're looking at this regular Forex market, instead of looking at an indice, I will end up saying that this will probably end up having a retracement first before actually pushing up. But the market on the daily is still not in the sell zone as of yet. So we should see, or we could see, some more movement towards the upside, especially if the US dollar is going to end up remaining to be down for its overall movement. So we have to pay attention to that. Now, the reason what I ended up doing a little bit earlier today was that the market ended up allowing me to be able to get in based off of a counter trend line break a little bit earlier, and I'm going to show it. And if we look at the 2 hour, we can see that the 2 hour is definitely in the buy zone right now. And it's starting to push up. So we have time on our side. Now it's just that, can we keep our stop loss very tight to ensure that we have profit, but put ourselves into a break-even trade, or put ourselves into a profit trade, and now we'll just gradually move up and capture profit while the market is actually moving up at this point in time, and be able to do it like that. Currently, what happened was the market ended up breaking a counter trend line break on the 2 hour. Once I ended up noticing that on the 2 hour, I basically ended up taking a buy from that position. I took the buy based off of the 15-minute chart. So I'm going to show you based off of that counter trend line break. I got in right here at 12,000. I got in at 12,022 for the first move. I'm sorry, 12,122 for the first move. From there, the market kept on pushing back up from that actual position. After that ended up happening, I just kept on riding it out from that overall position. This ad knowing while the trade was actually gradually starting to move up, and kept on moving my stop loss in the break even. So that meant that, quite frankly, I was using other people's money on being able to trade that, and I was stacking going to the trade. Got up to about $1,000 for the overall profit range, and lost a little bit on when the market basically ended up having this huge quick drop that ended up happening right here. I think overall ended up closing out with right around $500 for the first move. Currently, right now, we're in the second phase of this move. We have a counter trend line break on the 15-minute. Now we have to see a little bit more extension. If we get a little bit more extension off of this move and this market starts moving up, obviously we'll start moving our stop loss closer while the market is actually moving. So we want to see what that push is going to end up being from the 8 o'clockers and everybody else like that, and what's going to happen at 9:30. If not, once again, this market is a break-even trade, this market is definitely a break-even trade. Currently, the market is at 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Took me out of the market. So this popped right back up and hit right at that spot, and then popped right back down. So made money on this one as well. Didn't make as much, but made money on that one as well, and then popped right back to 24. So sometimes that's the way it happens. But in this one, quite frankly, back in the money. Well, I'm in the money on this one again. So we'll see what happens. We get a low price, then we're fine. We go back to the 15-minute. We can see that this move basically got ate up, but it basically whipsawed again on this overall push. So this is one of those things where now you're going to ask yourself, should you be trading it, or quite frankly, should you just let it go? And that's a very good question to be able to ask yourself. And I think the answer would end up being, were you in profit for the day to be able to use some of the winnings that you actually have? If you are, then go ahead and make the trade. If not, then just stay out of it. If you end up making money yesterday, you have nothing to be able to worry about. Okay. Now, let's see. Order. Just give me one more second. I'm sorry, guys. We can see on the 2 hour the market has broken the trend line. We can see on the On the 15-minute and the 5-minute, the market is basically in the buy zone. Once again, that doesn't necessarily matter all that much because the market has hit a daily D extension. So once again, we're in a position to where this market could fall down on us. We have to be able to keep that in mind while we're trading, being able to make a decision on what's going to end up happening. So if the market gets away, then obviously you have to be able to say, is there a position to be able to take? If not, then quite frankly, you just stay out of it. I don't have a car, baby. There's no car. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let's take a look at the US yen. US yen was the only trade that I was interested in being able to trade yesterday. We'll take a look at that, and then after that, make a decision. Really and truthfully, there's really no US trades to be able to look at unless you're looking at being able to sell, and quite frankly, I'm not interested in selling right now. Just for its overall positions. US yen, we can see that this market ended up breaking the trend line. It's starting to push up. If we look at the 2-hour on this move, we see that the market is in the sell zone, so that's something that we are interested in being able to do. Currently, right now, the only thing that I would pay attention off of this move will end up being with the market being in the sell zone. Can we get a counter trend line break? If we get a counter trend line break, then after that, I'll look at being able to sell it and being able to go from there. If we don't get a counter trend line break, and the market keeps on moving up, then quite frankly, we're getting a high price. We just have to wait for it. So that's what I'm looking for right here. Off of this overall move. Put that in green. I'm sorry, purple. Looking for a trend line break. If we get that trend line break to the downside, then after that, I would take the trade to the downside. Stop loss, in this case, I will place the stop loss at 106.35. You will have to be aware about 2 different positions. The first position will end up being 104, basically 105, because the market has been dropping, but it has been bouncing off of that overall area. The next position that I would end up paying attention to, is, can the market go down to 101? Now, once again, if that happens, then that means that the US dollar is taking a severe crash to the downside. And if that does happen, then we have to keep that in mind when it comes down to the overall movement for this overall pair. I'm looking for a counter trend line break based off of that movement. If I get that counter trend line break, I am interested in placing my stop at 106.35 with putting my take profit right around the 104.23 area and being able to go from there, being able to make a decision from that move. Okay, so that's where we are when it comes down to that overall pair. Let's see. We go to the US Swiss franc. US Swiss franc is still in the buy zone. Basically, it found support right around the 8.6 position. As its final support at the 8.6 position, the question is, can it break the trend line to the upside? I'm not interested in being able to buy it until it actually ends up doing that. Quite frankly, there's no reason to, because we're putting ourselves into a bad position on this overall point of being able to do that if we don't. Okay, so I think that this market has a chance of being able to be bearish, and we have to be able to keep that in mind when it comes down to this overall move. If that does happen, then that means that quite frankly, we don't have a trade to be able to take. So we end up paying attention to that overall and then seeing what happens based off of that. We go to the euro versus the United States dollar. Oh, no, cancel. What we end up seeing, if this market keeps on rising up, it's in the sell zone, but quite frankly, just like every other pair right now, we're seeing that this market could necessarily be bullish, and with this pair being necessarily being bearish on the weekly, that's putting it into a position to where if we have a counter trend line break, kind of like what we're seeing right here, the market could just keep on flushing to the upside. So I don't like what I see for this overall pair. I'm not interested in being able to trade it at this particular point because of that reason. And that's where I'm at on this overall pair for us being able to get in. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can be able to do for us being able to get in on that one, because if we try to get it on, we try to sell it based off of the, if we try to get in based off of the weekly, we can see that the weekly is basically in the buy zone and getting close to the buy zone. With the weekly being close to the buy zone, then the market could really put yourself into a position to where you could be down on this overall pair if you try to get in and you try to swing trade this. Now, you're trying to scalp it. You're trying to scalp it based off of this market basically selling off. Then you may get something, but even on the 2 hour, the market is in the buy zone. Well, there's no trade to be able to take at this particular point in time that I personally like on being able to get in. So this one was a very quick day. Quite frankly, we ended up making our money on the NASDAQ 100 already. So we'll see how everything else kind of plays off. And then after that, we'll just go ahead and go from there. I want to look for trading opportunity that gives us a chance. Quite frankly, if you're looking at still trying to get in the NASDAQ 100, I don't like the position right now anymore. Once again, we're talking about diminishing returns right now. The market does break the counter trend line break to the upside, then you have a trade to be able to take. But currently, right now, I don't see that pair to be able to get in right now off of this move. It ended up having this huge push up to. It ended up having this huge push up to 12,260. If there's a counter trend line break, then maybe. But unless you're putting your stop loss below this overall swing low, I will wait for the market to be able to try to tap off of this overall trend line break again at 12,177. If that does happen, then you may end up having a chance because the 2 hours basically in the buy zone. But you have to keep in mind that the daily is definitely at a point to where this market could fall at any point in time because the market has hit the extension for this move. So once again, you have to keep that in mind while you're actually going through and making your trading decisions on this actual pair. But overall, happy trading when it comes down to that. Just make sure you have a good stop loss. Make sure that you end up trading it to that point. If you're going to end up trading it up to a high or up to a position, I think that the market will end up being around 12,400 for its position to the upside. If you like that position on being able to get in. Okay. If you like what we end up doing, please make sure that you like the Carter Cow Capital business page. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Carter Cow trading page. Obviously, go to cartercowcapital.com/start here and be able to hop in and be able to see what we do for, say, everyday session and everything else like that. We have our boot camp coming up in 2 weeks. If you're interested in being able to hop into that, we're going to start putting out more information about that one. Got a lot of special stuff that we're going to end up giving out within our overall week. More things than we've ever done at this particular point in time. So I am very interested in being able to show that to everyone. And from there, like always, plan your trade your plan. I'll see each and every one of y'all in the next session. Take it easy.